Highness, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to chair our next session on influencers and their responsibilities across the media. We're all influencers to some degree, a shop window for the public to formulate their views, and it's a relevant theme to many of today's presentations. Welcome to our first speaker, Rhea Freeman, an award-winning PR and social media advisor. She's going to talk about the outreach of social media.
Your Royal Highness, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for not just being here to listen to me, but for this the whole amazing day. So we're going to talk about influencers and their responsibilities across the media. If you had listened to Sarah, you can probably know what I think the answer is to this question, but it's who or what is an influencer? Now, I've gone for riders. I think that's probably self-explanatory, or well done people. Content creators, because influencers are also called content creators interchangeably, but I thought, again, that might give the game away. Riders and brands. Now we've got, please vote, because I'm enjoying seeing this move around on the screen. Now the thing is, it is everybody. Everybody who has an influence is therefore an influencer. This can be somebody with a social media account. It can be someone in real life who has influence. We've all got the power to make a really, really positive change. So as I said, what's an influencer? It's anyone that has got an influence. Usually when we talk about it in this context, we talk about people with significant followings on social media. We talk about people who haven't just got 10 people that follow them, they've got thousands of people that follow them. And therefore people can use that influence they have, hopefully over a correct and engaged following, to ideally promote good, not always, but they can also do a huge amount of work beyond that too. Now, for the purposes of this, because I've only got 10 minutes rather than the whole day, which I could talk to you about it, we're going to focus on two aspects, which are riders and content creators, because these are the ones that we see the most in our space, who have that influencer badge. Now, thinking about influencers in terms of content creators and riders, do you think they do a good job in the industry? Now, there are lots of different aspects of this. Do they do a good job promoting themselves? Do they, it's exciting, Slido. Do they do a good job promoting themselves? Do they do a good job of promoting the sport of their business, of businesses that work with them? Now, we've gone leading on, I'll progress, I could watch this all day. But no is the answer, and I would agree with you. Don't start adding now to make me look a fool. I would agree with you. I think we can all do an awful lot better. Now, how can we? We do need to do better. There's so much at stake here. We have got issues where riders who have had long-term sponsorships with brands are losing their sponsorships because they're simply not doing enough. And I have conversations of this nature an awful lot with people. I know of many businesses that really want to work with influencers, want to work with content creators and riders, but they can't see the return on their investment because there isn't any, sadly. There is so much good that we can do, not just from a commercial point of view, but also from the sport as a whole. We've had really great talks here from Roly talking about the impact that we can all have in showing the things that we do, and it's a subject that we all need to be super, super aware of. How we show things on social media ourselves matters. How people outside and inside the industry perceive the sport matters. How from the sport's longevity point of view, riders working with brands, brands working with riders, and content creators doing a great job to show the breadth of what we do. A lot of the things I've heard today, I've thought, that's a shame, I didn't know about that before. And of course there are traditional routes to media, and Eleanor's coming on after me for Horse and Hound, so there definitely are, Eleanor. But we have now got such a huge amount of things at our disposal that we can all have the power to use. You don't have to pay to use social media. You don't have to put things out only when you're allowed to. You can put out whatever you want, whenever you want. And it's our job to do a really, really good job of this. I really think so much depends on this. Even our elite sport, I think, depends on it. I think having that brand sponsorship, having those people that support you, having the riders repay that, understanding how to do that through social media. I think the influencers and all content creators have a huge part to play in promoting our industry. Some of the great influencers we've got in our space, again, I was having chats earlier and this Esme came up, She's not only making a huge impression in the equestrian space, but beyond. She has a book coming out. She does all sorts. She's such a force for good. And we've got really great people like this, but we need to be doing better. And the question is how, because I don't like it when you go somewhere, you just get shouted at for 10 minutes and you've no idea what they expect you to do with that information. So when it comes to how, I've got a few ideas. The first thing is we need to understand the situation better. We need to be promoting the education around social media. For the younger generation, there is fear around social media. I've got young children myself, and I know some of the random things that happen in various WhatsApp groups with parents who are terrified of their children using social media. That's one thing we need to respect and we need to be aware of. We need to be aware of the negatives, but we also need to be really aware of the positives. We need to be aware of the power of social media and what people can do with it. We need to teach people how to do the right thing. I spend a huge amount of time working with brands, particularly with Beta, how they're going to utilise and work with influencers better, how they're going to work with riders better. But that whole education piece is such a big one. The rules are so important. For our industry to be taken really seriously, there needs to be a greater acceptance of the rules, regulations, and the laws around the kind of promotion that influencers do. If you want some light bedtime reading, and actually it's not as bad as it sounds, if you Google ASA influencer guidelines, there's a significant document on there. It's written in plain English, but it explains how people are meant to label the content when they are being endorsed, in any way to promote that content. We don't obey the rules. We need to learn how to promote properly. We need to explain what is required if we want people to do things. We need to think about the language we're using. We need to be educating people at every single level about how to do this properly. We need to collaborate, and that's not just riders needing to work with brands better. Brands need to work with riders better. Organisations need to be doing more as well. I know it does feel like I'm just giving you all a lecture, but there's so much potential here, and I can see it. I spend quite a lot of time learning from other industries as well and seeing how they utilise influencers, how they use their influence to promote what they're doing is huge. And we're really, really missing the boat. And another point is we really need to support each other. I was chatting to a friend the other day who isn't that horsey about the various things going on in the equestrian space. And she said, it just sounds like everyone's having a go at everyone else at the moment, doesn't it? And I said, yeah, it does a bit. But we need to support each other. We need to make the effort to use all of our influences for good, not to the detriment of somebody else, but in a way that works together and in a collaborative way. We all have a voice. We are all influencers. We need to appreciate this. We need to use our voice well, because there really is a lot riding on it. It's not just commercial aspects. It's the whole of our sport, which is reliant on doing a better job at this, being influencers for good, promoting ourselves better, promoting our sport better, and promoting everything that we love better too. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rhea, for a very enlightening presentation. Next up, we have Eleanor Jones, who is the news editor at everyone's favourite Horse and Hound. She's going to be speaking about the development of print and web media.
Your Royal Highness, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for inviting me to speak. I have to say I had never thought of myself as an influencer, can't even say it, but long before TikTok and Instagram, magazines, newspapers and websites were influencing their readers' behaviour and choices. Publications that sign up to the IPSO Code of Conduct for Journalism are controlled by strict rules of practice that ensure fairness, ethics, accuracy and clarity between what is editorial and advertising or advertorial. Paid-for content has to be labelled as such, as Rhea alluded to, and readers will get trust from that. Not all publications choose to do this, but the reputable ones will. Readers have always turned to trusted sources to find out how they can best look after their horses and improve themselves as riders. If we feature sports, riders, products or services in print or online, the media are inevitably raising the profile of those to large numbers of people who trust them or us as a source. When we feature a product or a service in editorial or advertising, those suppliers get inundated with inquiries, and clients who put adverts in Horse and Hound tell us that they then have to make sure they have people standing by the phone ready to take calls on a Thursday. Our content is seen and read by hundreds of thousands of people, and this influence brings a huge responsibility. We have to make sure everything we put out is accurate, from credible sources, and carrying the right message. And there are two ways this content has influence: direct and indirect. Oh, that's gone a little bit distorted, but this first warning, the top warning, came from a session here at the National Equine Forum in 2020, and the other last summer from a webinar, both on anthelmintic resistance, as we've heard about today. And of course it isn't enough, and I'm sure Tamsin will agree, to change behaviour by saying thou shalt not worm. For pieces such as these, we will speak to people like David Rendell, the former Beaver president and specialist in equine internal medicine, or Claire Shand from Westgate Labs. And these experts can explain to us and to our readers what the issue is, why it's so serious, and what every owner needs to do. These articles, again, were read by hundreds of thousands of people, and if just a small percentage of those change their practices or think about changing their worming practices as a result, then that is a positive outcome. And then, of course, there is indirect influence. For example, we don't use pictures of people riding without hats where avoidable, or hacking out without high-vis equipment on, even if a piece isn't directly relating to the importance of safety equipment. By using pictures of people not using it, we could be inadvertently suggesting to our 500,000 Facebook followers that riding without it is okay. And this ties into the major issue that we've heard a lot about today of social licence, public acceptance of the involvement of horses in sport. We don't say use of horses either, because this could sound like riding and ownership aren't the amazing horse-human partnership that we should all celebrate. We have been covering social licence and its importance to the future of horse sport now for some years, but even before that, as public and riders' attitudes changed, we were changing the way we depict certain aspects of our sport. In the 1990s, you could buy, and many people did buy, thrills and spills videos from major horse trials, or people would sit at the water fence at those horse trials to see the falls. And if we had report pages in the magazine that pictured unfortunate incidents, they were some of the most read and liked by readers in our surveys. And now, of course, most readers absolutely don't want to see horses hitting fences, and certainly not falling, and so we are careful in our picture selection to show the most positive moments wherever possible. And of course, we, like everyone here, have a vested interest in the continuation and popularity of horse sport. And when it comes to public acceptance, the media can play an important role in highlighting the good management and practices that the vast majority of riders demonstrate every day. We have been criticised for writing news stories about things like yellow cards and welfare cases, the suggestion being that this brings the sport into disrepute, but it is the incidents that bring the sport into disrepute, not our reporting. And although we do want to, and we do, champion horses in sport, it would be unethical of us to paper over the cracks. And similarly, some would rather we didn't write about the importance of public acceptance of horse sport, or highlight research that shows that it's waning. So as mentioned earlier, when we reported World Horse Welfare's research that showed 1 in 5 people don't support the continuation of horse sport under any circumstances, and double that only if welfare is improved, we came in for criticism. And there were people who feel there wouldn't be a problem if we didn't write about it, or that this headline was sensationalising. But by burying our heads in the sand, the horse world would be worse off. It is in the sport's interest that the media highlights the issues and champions positivity and positive change to help secure the future of our sports. I know personally of people who, when we first started reporting on social licence, thought it was a load of rubbish. But now they are changing their minds, and that mindset change is crucial to the future of our sports. Thank you. And thank you for the chocolate.
Eleanor, thank you for a very informative presentation there. Next, I have the privilege of interviewing Ashleigh Wicheard. She's going to be talking about the emergence of the influencer, and she and I are going to be in dialogue. Ashleigh is... oh, sorry, I've lost my way here slightly. Ashleigh, do come on up, and we're going to be looking at the role of influencing across our social media challenges as an advocate for ethnically diverse communities in equestrian sport. First, we're playing a video, if I understand it.
Me, then who? It's not been done before. When we get the photo in the paddock, I'm going to take the knee. It's up to whoever you want. If you wanted to join in, you're more than welcome, but there's no pressure for you to do that. I just wanted to let you know. I think the message is racing won't be the same anymore. We are trying really hard to promote diversity. I know that there could potentially be some negative impact from it, but the bravery of those people standing up in their sports, I just felt like it was something that I could do. They inspire me. I quite often put a guided meditation video on YouTube, and last night I did one, and this morning I woke up and the only thing I could think about was when we take the knee. That's something racing hasn't seen, and I think that would be monumental. That's my idea anyway.
Do you want to get in my car?
Obviously, I'm normally with the horse, so I'm normally, backstage, if you like, doing all the preparation behind closed doors. To effectively have my J badge for the day is quite cool. In all honesty, I've just been really looking forward to it. I've ridden a horse once, and I think we got on quite well. I mean, I am a competitive person, but I'm under no illusions that, Tony McCoy, champion jockey, didn't win every race, so I'm definitely not expecting to win, but, I will be trying my hardest to win. Let's go. Like I said, there's no pressure for everybody to do it, but if you want to, that's amazing.
Yeah.
If not,
I'm done
then...
This has been the best,
Yeah.
most craziest experience.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for everything. Thank you for being amazing. We've already won.
The girls are so supportive. I'm so grateful, and I think it's going to send a really strong message out there for the racing industry, so... Here we go.
Good luck, guys. Good luck.
They're off and racing for the Markel Magnolia Cup of 2022, and Ashleigh Wicheard has sent Dark Shot straight to the front. The leader is still clear, and that leader is Dark Shot under Ashleigh Wicheard, well on top at the moment. Running on to be second, Anna Bodisham on board the speed of white as they head up towards the winning line. It's Ashleigh Wicheard on Dark Shot to win the Magnolia Cup.
she's gone and smashed. I'm so proud of her. I was screaming. From start to finish, I was screaming, and then I hit the floor because I couldn't believe that she won it.
Words cannot describe how proud we are of Ashleigh. She's worked so hard, and she deserves everything she gets.
She's done a lot now for the diversity and just bringing to attention that you can do it regardless.
It's such a big thing for Ashleigh, and it has been for such a long time, and now she's brought this to the forefront, and she will take it on from here.
I don't think it's going to hit me until a lot later. It's a dream come true. Yeah, I guess I felt like my purpose in this industry is to be a role model for other aspiring black females and males that want to get into racing and, you know, equestrianism in particular racing. Mission accomplished.
It's such a moving, inspiring and empowering video there, and it nearly brought me to tears.
I was gone.
Hugely inspiring to have achieved so much there, but I know there is so much more that you've been busy working on and with. You've become a model for Tommy Hilfiger. You are a committee member and mentor for women in racing. Can you share with us some of the other exciting things on your agenda to help raise the profile and the inclusion of ethnically diverse communities in horse sport and beyond?
So I've recently become patron to Strength and Learning Through Horses, which is an equine therapy group in London. They are in the process of building a new facility. They've just got a new sponsor, which I can't say too much about, but it's very exciting. Times ahead. So hopefully they can become a route for people that have never had any sort of involvement with horses before. Hopefully they can be a sort of bridge into the racing schools, provide possible grooms for all sorts of equestrian disciplines. And yeah, so at the end of the day, horses, they regulate me, I think, which is why I enjoy my job so much. I'm not, you know, I love racing, but I'm not an avid racing fan. I'm a fan of the horses, and I just think that they work so well in changing people's lives. So
I think horses are a gift in so many ways, whether we ride them, whether we just keep them, whether we work with them through hippotherapy. There are so many ways in which horses bring us so much as humans. The big question, after taking the knee in the paddock, what did the impact of the social media response have on you?
I honestly thought it was going to be a lot worse than it was, and I think that the media coverage had a lot to do with that. They could have chosen to cover it in a way that saw it very sort of political. I'm trying to force my opinions on people, and that's not what what it was about. I was purely trying to be representation for young people that look like me, and I felt like that was the best way for me to do it. So
I think in inspiring people of colour to actually believe in themselves and to know that there should be an equal space for all, I think, as we've seen, so much that you have done and are doing. Do you have any thoughts on how you plan to help increase participation and address the balance of representation of ethnically diverse communities in your role specifically as an influencer? So I know you have a very active Instagram page, Miss Black Equestrian. I know you're very active on TikTok as well. So overlapping with some of the things that Rhea has said, how do you feel you can continue to work your social media profile to your ultimate goal?
I think for me, I'm not a professional rider, so people aren't going to see me in that space. But what I am is passionate about what I've been doing. So for me, it's all about representation. It's about being an ambassador for Tommy Hilfiger, which is an amazing brand to be part, you know, involved with. I don't know. And I think it's just literally being, for me, when I started working back in racing, it was purely to be a face in the paddock. I did not know where that was going to go. I did not know that the Magnolia Cup was going to happen. So to think that all of what I'm doing now has happened as a result of riding in that race, it's given me more opportunities. So as opportunities turn up, I'll take them, and hopefully I'll use them to the sort of best of my ability to use it as a good platform for representation purposes.
Absolutely. And how supportive is your employer? I think you work for Neil Mulholland.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I imagine he's hugely supportive and proud.
Well, I'm here today. I still work full time in racing at the moment, but we've come to an arrangement. So I'm allowed to be freed up for certain things, which is it works. You know, it works for both of us. I'd like to think that he's proud of what I'm doing and being a representation for his yard, and you know, and as a result of that, I'm able to come and do this. So
it works both ways.
Yeah.
Very effectively. One final question. If we look around the room today, it seems you're the only person of colour here, I think. If the National Equine Forum audience could take home one message from you today to help support equality, diversity and inclusion, what would it be?
I'm not here to hammer home that there's a shortage of diversity in equestrianism. I would just like to ask everybody in the room that the issue doesn't relate to most people in this room, I would imagine, because they're not a person of colour. But I would say maybe just notice in the environments you're in, when you're on the yards, when you're, you know, in meetings or whatever, just notice. And, you know, all these empty seats could be filled with people of colour, which would level out the playing field and make it a better place for people of colour coming through. Make it, more inclusive.
Absolutely, to be an inclusive space always. And I think you are an admirable point on that journey. And let's hope next year for National Equine Forum, one, we hope you'll attend, and two, perhaps we'll be able to look upon...
I'll bring some friends.
Excellent. So now if we could invite our speakers to come back on, we're going to have a panel discussion, well, questions really to the audience and via Slido. So I just need to get back into my phone so that I can find my Slido questions. We also have Roly Owers, Chief Executive of World Horse Welfare, joining us. Having spoken earlier about social licence, which is obviously inextricably linked to the role of the influencer. So, may I ask the floor if anyone has any questions? Over there, could you state your name, please, and fire away?
Hiya, thank you. Amber Matthews, I'm an equine lecturer. My question might be to all of you, to be fair. We've spoken about disseminating all this information that we've, you know, these important topics we've come up with today. The younger generation that I teach primarily do use TikTok and follow, you know, TikTok influencers. How can we share this information, this scientific information that we've come up with today, these conversations we're having with these TikTok influencers, to make sure the younger generation are able to understand and practice this kind of information that we're seeing?
Should we start with you, Rhea, with that one?
Absolutely. Which microphone am I talking at? Because I don't need to be twice this loud. Should I guess we can all hear me. You're all laughing at my jokes, which I really appreciate. Thank you. Oh gosh, I've got two. Okay, so I think it's really important to acknowledge that we need to go to where the people are. So if people are on TikTok, we need to be making sure we're making relevant content as an industry that address people where they are. As saying, no, we want to talk to you on this place. Who's going there? Whenever we're looking to advertise or do anything commercially with a brand, we go to where the people are. That's why brands spend a huge amount of money, time and energy making reels, TikTok, things that are relevant for the platform. And I think it's exactly the same with the younger generation. If we want them to know everything that we want them to know, we need to meet them where they are. We need to upskill ourselves so we are promoting what is important to us on the right places. So to me, it's all about meeting people where they are.
Ashleigh, do you have anything to add?
I'd have to just agree.
You don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing. We have social media pages and we'll try to share all our content on all our platforms. So hopefully some of that will be getting through to those people.
Roly?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important to enable people to be able to make a difference. And so sometimes when you look at these things around, whether it be around equity, diversity and inclusive issues, whether it be around sustainability issues, whether it be about equine welfare or integrity issues, you can think, oh my word, where do I start? So I think it's so important, whatever platform we're on, we can give people little steps to take, because if lots of people take little steps, we really will make a difference. And I think it's empowering people to feel that they can make a difference.
Thank you. We now have a question via Slido, and I think this is probably to all of you, but I think we'll start with you, Eleanor, with this one. In a changing world where everyone has an opinion, camera and social platform, what responsibility does the equine press have in shaping the welfare of horses?
I think it's a privilege to be in a position where we're able to share sort of reliable research or expert advice to a large number of people that might then influence how they manage their horses and then hopefully improve those horses' welfare. We are governed, as I said, by the IPSO codes, but I think even if we weren't, and anyone who isn't should be sort of very careful that any information they share is not only factual, but they're clear. And again, as I think Rhea has mentioned, that you're clear whether it is fact or opinion. It is a very important distinction to make. And we've got a great opportunity, though, to share and celebrate positive aspects of horses in our sport and maybe highlight the occasions when it's not so good and is being worked on. And hopefully that all goes some way to improving welfare.
Thank you. Fact and opinion are two very specifically defined areas. Roly, from a welfare perspective, how does that sit with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we recognise that there's a lot of very good journalism out there, and and journalists should be holding the sector to account where things go well and when things don't go so well. I think there is also really important to try and make that constructive. Okay, so when things are not as good as they should be, what are the standards we should be holding up? And I think in the day of social media, I think that because a lot of people get their media from social media, and some of that can be reliable, some of that can be less reliable. And I think there is a greater responsibility on media to be able to try and debunk those sort of grandiose theories which are just plainly wrong. So I think it is changing, but I think it is a great opportunity for us to be able to celebrate, because the public acceptance overall is going to be by being able to be honest and be shown to be doing the right things, and where we're not doing the right things, be able to be transparent enough to say, no, we dropped the ball there and we can do better.
And perhaps to have a much more joined up approach to everything. I think something, as you were saying earlier, Rhea. More questions from the floor? Yes, thank you. If you could state your name, please.
Rachel Medill from RD at Riding for the Disabled. We would really like to be more diverse on our board. It's very high on our list, and this is a question for Ashleigh. We've advertised widely, but have so few applicants. How do you recommend we encourage people to apply for our board positions, perhaps people of colour, for instance?
I don't think it's going to be... I don't think anything's going to happen overnight. I think it's going to take a long time for people to start going through to boards and, higher up the chain. I think it's just really important to put steps in right from the ground up, basically. We just need to encourage children at school age to come through, and, there might be parents that want to get involved, you don't know, but I don't think it will be something that happens overnight, and it's just a case of small steps.
Thank you, Rhea. Another question from Slido, sorry, Ashleigh, another question for Rhea. What are your thoughts on the future of supported or sponsored riders working with brands?
That could literally be the whole day gone, me talking about this.
I don't worry.
I won't, next I know someone will show me a red card or we asked to leave. I think there is absolutely a future there. It's as important as brands to have those advocates for them that people can believe in, that people buy into, as it is for the riders to have that support. So I think there is a huge potential there to do a brilliant job of this, for everybody to feel supported and to help fund the industry, to help fund the sport we love. But I do think that there's a huge amount of work that needs to be done to make that really, really effective. But I genuinely, hand on heart, believe it has got a huge future and a really great future if we do some work with it and get that communication going, get the learning going, and just upskill everybody. Because, as we said on this panel, because of social media, which obviously I am quite a fan of, everyone is their own newsroom now, aren't they? Everyone has got the ability to put anything out there, but they don't necessarily have the training to do that. They don't know how to do it correctly. And I think there's loads of different ways that we can approach that and give people those tools. And I think that that's the way that it will be great. But I do think it has the potential to be brilliant and to really help support the riders and the sport and the brands going forward.
And we go back to fact and opinion again, the point that Eleanor raised, which is key to all things. Any further questions from the audience? Otherwise, I have another couple of Slido questions. Okay. I think another one for you here, Eleanor. How are journalists balancing their responsibility to horse welfare and clickbait strategy for the financial viability of the periodical, the YouTube channel, blogs and live events, etc.?
I mean, the simple answer is we don't have a clickbait strategy. We don't do clickbait. We are able to create magazine and online content that readers want to read and enjoy reading. So therefore, we are financially viable without having to compromise our editorial strategy. We do analyse, of course, what people read the most and what they engage with the most, and then we can create more of that sort of content. And of course, the web headlines have an important job. They have to explain what the story is and encourage people to read it, but they're not misleading. We would be penalised if they were misleading and wouldn't want to do that anyway. I can't think of any stories we would run that would be bad for horse welfare but good for our traffic. And if there was a story, we have done in the past, we have toned down a headline based on the fact that would be better from a social licence point of view, even if to do so is at the expense of our traffic, and we will continue to do that. So, because it's such a joint responsibility for all of us for the future of horse sport.
Roly, do you have anything to add from the social licence perspective?
Well, I can imagine it's a very tricky balance for journalists, but actually the survey data I showed, the FEI and World Horse Welfare showed earlier, that actually there's a lot of people who are thinking along those lines. So actually those welfare positive stories, there's always a very good audience for them, and I think that will only grow. So I think as tempting it as is, actually it's all about the long term, as Ashleigh has already said, about in different areas. And so I think it is very much as tempting it is. And it's very frustrating, I think, for reasoned voices, and not just World Horse Welfare, but many other organisations who will give the media a reasonable quote, but they will go and get that extreme quote. So I think that doesn't mean we should all go and give extreme quotes. That means that we should stick to our guns. And I think in the long term, it really will make a difference.
So it's always finding that perfect balance. Yeah. I think another Slido question, and this one's for all of you. So if we'll start with you, Ashleigh. If there were two messages for 2023 that all equestrian stakeholders in the UK could promote for the year, what might the two aspects be, and what should we all do to manage and coordinate such messages? You can take it from your perspective. It's a tricky one.
First of all, I would say, like I said before, notice what's going on. Don't necessarily take it from somebody else's opinion. Just take a minute to step back and look at the environment you're in, look at how, where the gaps are, what needs to be done. Secondly, I think sorry, you've lost me on the second.
Two aspects. if there were two messages for 2023 that all equestrian stakeholders could promote for the year, what might the two aspects be, and what should we all do to manage and coordinate such messages? I think it's a case of all of us pulling together and working as a whole, so picking those messages and picking the very valid point that you raised, and then...
Yeah, I think for instance, I won't name names, but I noticed something not long ago, so I messaged a certain person within the company and said, I've noticed this, would you consider updating this video because it's not now reflective of our society? And I'm aware that there was a conversation not long ago that it was sort of written off a little bit, so I think it's, I don't know, it is just noticing and sort of asking people would they consider things rather than trying to force your opinions. And
perhaps having the courage to have those more difficult conversations to elicit change.
I think on a personal level, this has given me a bit more strength, and I'm a bit braver to challenge certain things and challenge them in the right way. I don't want to go in there all confrontational, but, you know...
It's working with groups to have that dialogue and to have an open dialogue to make those changes for the long term, perhaps. Rhea, same question to you. Would you like me to repeat the question? It was quite a lengthy one, but a good one.
I've had time to think. I need to get it out before I forget it. Thank you. So the first one is that social media is here to stay. Whether you love it or loathe it, it's here to stay. I'm not even going to say sorry about it because I really like it. It does have its dark and its light, and I absolutely get that, but it's here to stay. Learn how to use it, upskill yourself, and learn how to use it for good, because it can do so much good. And also, you are in control of a lot of what you see, largely. And the second one is shorter. We are all in this together. As a sport, we all need to be working together. It's not you against whoever, or them against you, or influencers against riders, or riders against brands, or brands against whoever. Everyone needs to be pulling together for the greater good, because it matters to all of us that people inside and beyond the industry get it. It matters that we all have got that financial support. We're all pulling together. We're showing the best of what our industry can offer. That wasn't short at all, was it?
Roly, straight on to you, because Rhea is mentioning certainly some things that you put forward quite vehemently in your presentation this morning in working together.
All I can say is that last year I didn't appear on the Slido speed test at all. This year I was 5th, so I'm coming after you, Eleanor. In terms of two things, one is Team Equestrian. I mean, we are all in this together, and just picking up on Rachel's question, I completely understand what Ashleigh says, we are in it for this sort of long term, but we can learn so much from each other. And when we were recruiting for trustees last year, Mandana and a team at British Equestrian provided us with so much information about the language we use in our adverts, where we advertise, and it's had an impact. So, there's lots of any questions or challenges that we have within the equestrian world. There's someone else and many other people who are facing that. So let's learn from each other and be open enough and brave enough to say, can you help? Because in nearly every case, that will be the case. And the second one, I would say, just challenge yourself to have an open mind at all times, because just because we do something one way doesn't necessarily make it right. And in doing that, we do need to sell the equestrian sector. That's the world we live in, and we all have a responsibility to do that. So let's just be mindful of how what we do and what we say feels and what the general public will hear. I think it's so important, because so often we let ourselves down when we just don't need to.
And Eleanor, to you.
Yeah, absolutely agree on the consistency, because as everyone knows, if you ask 10 horsey people the same horsey question, you'll get 14 different answers. So, we all need to be sort of singing from the same hymn sheet and saying the same thing. And as regards social licence, I think Roly and everyone has said it all already, but just, as long as our horses' welfare is the number one absolute priority at all times, and it is clear that it is, we are communicating that it is and celebrating the partnership, we can't go far wrong.
Thank you. I think we are out of time, unless there are any more questions from the floor. We are out of time. Thank you very much indeed to all our speakers for a very enlightening, empowering and quite emotional session.
Thank you.